Never knowing what we could get ourselves into gives us the adrenaline we need. We've been shot at, chased by gang members, and threatened with our lives. But we still have to document what goes on down there. These words from my guest today, Howard Raishbrook. Howard runs the famed RMG news stringer service out of Los Angeles with his two brothers, Austin and Marc. RMG News supplies TV news stations in LA and around the globe with high-octane breaking news footage on a daily basis. And with over 10 years of being in the news stringer business, Howard is constantly navigating the dangerous, unimaginable, miserable core of human suffering to expose such incredible images to the world, and in it, perhaps giving the world a hard look at itself that it needs to find the light. Being a news stringer is anything but easy. It's not for the weak of heart and mind. Here's Howard's story. DJ, roll that music. Yeah, Claire is joining us on this podcast today. Howard, thank you for being here on the Hangry Mexican.
Oh, no problem at all. Thanks for having me.
So I think, first and foremost, I know a lot of people recognize you from, Netflix documentaries like Shut in the Dark, or the news in the news industry will recognize you because you're always sending video from the craziest scenes out there. Especially around LA, but I know you've gone out of LA to other areas and just gotten so much crazy footage out there. What's been the craziest thing that you've done?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing it a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff, but I think recently the biggest story I got was the Kobe crash. That was a big story, but we've covered everything from train crashes to plane crashes to active shooters to animal rescues, animal calls. My brother lives in Sierra Madre. He does all the bears and the mountain lions. But last night we had that police chase that ended hitting a pole on the 405. People ejected, brush fires, celebrities, houses burning down. I mean, you name it. We're there. If it happens overnight, we're there.
Perfect. Now, everybody listening to this is probably thinking, what in the world does Howard do? How does he get all this stuff? So maybe just in a few sentences here, just explain what you do, what your profession is.
Yeah, essentially I'm a stringer. I listen to police and fire radios, and I drive to breaking news. If I hear a fire on the radio, get dispatched, I'll drive there, film it, edit on my laptop, send it to the news, and then hopefully make a sale. Like the movie Nightcrawler, essentially without the felonious aspects of it. Yeah, so we listen to police and fire radios, and we listen for a call that we think will sell, something visual, maybe a hydrant crash or shooting, and go and film it, and then we sell it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And how long have you been doing this for?
I actually came to the US from the UK in 1995. And that was right after school. I was 18.
Yeah.
And we, my twin brother and I, Austin, we listened to police radios. We bought a really cheap scanner from Radio Shack. And we'd sit in the middle of South Central in 1995, just a couple of really pasty English white guys sitting down there and being naive and just... So a long time, 20 years we've been doing it now.
Wow. Does it get tiring?
It's... Yeah, I'm getting older before my time, I think.
I'm curious, what type of training, if any, did you guys have to get into this business?
Well, my background's production. I did a lot of work. I was a line producer for 10 years, worked on some commercials and feature films, documentaries. So my background's always been production, and I've always enjoyed photography. Growing up, we had an uncle that worked at the BBC, and so we'd get to see what he did, and so it's always been interested. Thank you. Always been interested in that. So my background's production. I did study camera work, actually film work, back when it was actually shot on film. So I've always enjoyed that, but then I've always had a real passion for breaking news. I mean, we grew up in a really small town in in Dorset in England, not far from Stonehenge. So there was nothing to do. We'd hear sirens once a month. We'd get on our bikes and we'd pedal after it, and just for fun. So we've always had part of that news or breaking news passion in us, and then kind of combining that with some production stuff and then the camera work and doing that, we figured, hey, let's see if we can earn some money. We did it for 5 years without earning a single penny. We would just film it because we enjoyed it.
Yeah. So you get here and all of a sudden it's not just one siren a month. It's every 10 minutes practically.
Oh, it was a culture shock. I mean, it was our first experience of the US was living in Venice, and we planned a 6-month trip on a tourist visa. So we go there, and it was a culture shock. I remember walking down the boardwalk, the morning after we get here, and seeing a syringe on the floor, and thinking, oh, this place is disgusting. It's like, oh, drugs everywhere, and like we were kind of saying we might be here a month and then we'll go home, but no, we stayed 6 months and then we had to go home for visas and stuff like that, and then came back, and that was the start of things.
Oh, wow. And we're getting some nice pastries here. This is these are delicious, by the way. These are the eclairs. So did you ever think about maybe getting hired by a news station, becoming a news photographer? Was that ever in your mind?
I've always liked to do what I do without a boss. So I've always liked to... I've had those jobs. I had a job here for 10 years working for an agency as a photographer and a videographer. And, when that job went away, I was extremely happy to work my own hours. Working the overnight shift, I can be flexible. We have a little one, and if he's sick, I can stay home. I don't need to explain to anybody why I'm not out. So for what I do, I can't see just going in at a certain time, getting paid that, and just going home. I just couldn't see it. I just enjoy doing what I do, and
now that you have this family with a little one, have your priorities changed now with the type of profession that you do?
Oh yeah, definitely. 10 years ago I'd be absolutely reckless. I would walk into the middle of places in Compton and Watts, just not caring. I would just go in there and say, hey, what's up, dudes? And some guy's shot, and I'd be chased out of there.
Wow.
As soon as I got married, that changed. Like, okay, well, now I got to have some proper responsibilities, and then obviously when a kid comes along, everything changes. Absolutely everything. Like, I very rarely go to South LA now. Part of RMG, we have a crew of people, small crew of people, and there's other younger guys that will go and do that, and I'll kind of stick to maybe the San Fernando Valley. Depends how big things are. Maybe I'll go out of town, but so I definitely don't go to places that I shouldn't, and I definitely watch my back. Yeah. And if my wife asks, I wear my bulletproof vest all the time.
Getting into the hustle and bustle of getting the shots and the news, it just became a little too much, especially because I did get in a rollover accident driving a live truck.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
wow.
The tire blew out and the van just lost control.
That's
and that
scary.
was it. Yeah, so after that, there was an opportunity to get out of what I was doing. I took it, and at that time, I was also planning a wedding with Claire here, and once we got married, that was it. We kind of cemented our careers in a more behind the scenes kind of role. Stay back at the station and just do that.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for the stations. I don't know how they put up with half these stringers and their mood swings and the why didn't you buy my stuff and why did you buy theirs.
Have you ever been one of those? Have you ever gotten like that with the stations? Kind of gotten
not really.
Pissy?
Occasionally there's a couple of stations that will take our stories and run with it, and but apart from that, it's people. I honestly, just from experience, I've given up trying to understand what the stations use and why they use it. I could have the best stuff shot on a tripod with 2 witness interviews, and a station will use some cell phone footage and something from the Citizen app and then a map. So I honestly I don't even bother with it now. I get what I get, and it's still a viable business at this time. It's it's definitely changing. The last 10 years it's changed hugely, not just because of cell phones, but social media has killed it. A lot of times we end up buying stuff from cell phones, or we have to carry cash on us to get stuff from cell phones and buy the rights to it and then package it with our own stuff. It's definitely a changing industry. It's definitely getting harder. And plus the likes of Nightcrawler and Shot in the Dark, and we had a show back in 2007, 2008 called Stringers LA. That was on True TV.
Oh, wow.
So we had that for 2 seasons. So every time something else comes out, everybody thinks they can do it. And then the Nightcrawler thing, I worked on Nightcrawler. I was a consultant. I worked with a director, worked on the script of that.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And I knew that when that came out, it was going to be mainstream. Things were going to happen again. The industry was going to change. And because of my production background, I thought it's the perfect time to pitch another show. So I'm the executive producer on the Netflix show as well. So I pitched that, and we had a deal with one network, and that fell through. And then Netflix were just waiting in the wings, and they said, "Okay, we'll take it. Thanks." Perfect. So.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about the production aspect that you do. Those projects that you work on. So first, like the Nightcrawler film. This is with Jake Gyllenhaal. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So when you came on board as a consultant, obviously you want to keep it as true to what you do. But how was that experience, especially seeing some of the things that may not be the way that are how you know them to be?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I've worked on some, a lot of productions, but working on a feature film of this level, I knew it was going to be different. It was going to have some real exposure, and people were going to either really like it or hate it. Worked on the script. Obviously, I had discussions with the director, Dan Giori, about, there's a lot of things in the script that we wouldn't do. Walk into people's houses, that kind of stuff. And he agreed, obviously, and he said, look, we need to take some creative license on this, and we're going to push the boundaries. And, he's building this whole character, with Jake. And meeting Jake for the first time was fun. Obviously, I've admired him as an actor. I think he's a great actor, and it was a little strange having him in my car. I had him and the director of photography driving around in my car. And
so he actually tagged along with you during real calls?
During real calls.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was that like that?
It was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking. I mean, we had them sign waivers because I didn't want to be driving around with that amount of liability in my car and wrap it around a pole, and that's the end of that. So it was nerve-wracking. I mean, I definitely toned it down a bit. I mean, because of my passion, I get pumped up at stuff, and my windows steam up because I'm getting hot, that kind of passion. But he was super focused. He would sit in the front. He had his own video camera. He would basically mimic every move I did, and I mean, it was a strange, it's a very surreal experience. He's a super nice guy, very professional. Wasn't overly friendly, but I wasn't expecting that. He was in his role and doing his job. I'm still in contact with the director today. Worked with the director of photography as well, Robert Elswit. Super creative guy. I mean, his visuals were something else. And then Bill Paxton, actually drove around with him too. He came out with us and worked on calls and went to pursuits, and we had a discussion that he would be the perfect stringer navigator because he grew up around LA, and I'm going to a pursuit with him, and he's like, yeah, go over this street here, go over this one here, and go down, take this way, we'll cut him off there. I'm like, dude, do you want a job or what? Because he was good. He was really good. And his son was working on the production too, and he was a super nice guy. Unfortunate, that he passed away, but it was interesting to work on the movie.
Yeah. So with all these ride-alongs that you get with these actors, what has been the general reaction after the ride-along ends? What do they think at the end of this?
I mean, excuse my French, but f*** me is usually what comes out of their mouths. Yeah, they're like, wow. They would explain that they see this stuff on the news in the morning, never really think of how the stations get it. I mean, a lot of people just assume that the stations have crews out overnight. I mean, some do, some don't, or most don't. And we kind of fill that void between 11:30 when the choppers go down, or 11:45, or fill that void until 3-4 o'clock in the morning when the stations come back on live.
All right, and then let's fast forward a little bit to Shot in the Dark. Mm-hmm. Now, Shot in the Dark, that's not a feature film. I mean, that really kind of shows you what kind of really happens.
Yeah, and that was my idea. I mean, I produced the show. I went to Netflix with it, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to really show, kind of the other end of the aspect, because Nightcrawler painted us in a really bad light. I mean, we've never had people come up and say, "Oh, we really appreciate your job." You know, we don't get that. We're like, "F you," and go away, and you get spat at and chased, and like, how disgusting of you to make money off people's misery. And so I wanted to show what we really do. So I wanted to keep it as real as possible, and for that we did another show, a documentary, and they took like our best of and then kind of re-engineered the scenes, which was not what I wanted this to be. I wanted this to be a real, true experience, you know, shot in low light, and just how gritty and real it was. And the calls are real. There was nothing made up. And we actually had trouble. I mean, we shot over a 6-month period, and we had so much content that we had trouble kind of figuring out what we were going to use. So it was fun to shoot. It was grueling, not just because we've got cameras attached to our cars, we've got cameras on the hoods of our cars, we've got cameramen in the back, we've got cameras on the windshields inside, we've got cameras on the side of the cars. I mean, it was definitely difficult to shoot, see out the window at some points, but we got a lot of stuff. I think we went through a few cameramen that couldn't really deal with it. I mean, with our other show on True TV, we kind of filtered through some people that weren't comfortable doing it, because it takes definitely a kind of person that, you know, knows what they're doing and can hold their own down there. So I wanted it to be as real as possible, and the stories are true. I mean, we get a lot of people saying that my brother set up the crash on the freeway. We actually had a national news network after that crash. That was actually my brother's first day of filming, was that crash. So Netflix were very happy with him. And after that crash, we actually had a network news station call us and said, "Look, we're hearing rumors you set that up." I'm like, "Are you serious? We've done business with you for 15 years, and you're calling us to question if that was set up. You really think we do that?" And it's like, yeah, I mean, we can get. My brother's had death threats from that. I mean, we've had to involve the FBI. I mean, it's got to that point. But everything's real. I mean, people either hate it or love it. I mean, we get hate mail, and we get a lot of mail still every day. I get email from all parts of the world. "Hey, can you help me with a visa? I want to come and work for you. I'll work for you for free." And then 2 hours later, I get an email from somebody in the army in Afghanistan saying, "I'm coming back to find you." It's like, seriously? Wow. It's like, how dare you make money off of people's misery? I know this family. So, okay. Anyway, but yeah, it's you either love it or hate it. But I think we did a good job of really showing what we do.
Yeah, exactly. And that show came out, if I remember correctly, not too far after Nightcrawler.
Yeah, it was a couple of years.
Yeah.
It was a couple of years, and we had that time to kind of pitch and kind of really hone in on how we wanted the feel of the show. And like I said, we had a deal with a network that fell through. And Netflix. I mean, we'd love a second season. But it's not been a yes and it's not been a no, so I know they're still considering it. You know, every now and again it's trending, and you know we go through waves. Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know, time when people are spending at home, we get emails saying, "Oh my God, I've just binged your whole thing. I'm watching it for a second time."
Yeah, I just recently I googled the show just to see what came up, see if there was a second season in the works, and I would bump into forum after forum of people just wanting more of this. Because if I remember correctly, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. We just binge watched it in like 1 or 2 days, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it ended with such a cliffhanger, at least in my opinion, that's why you want a second season.
That's what we get. We had a celebrity a couple of days ago from the UK. She got hold of us via Twitter and said, "Hey, you know, really, really loved your show. Please, not the cliffhanger was too bad. Did you merge or did you not merge?" And it's like, yeah. So it's we would love a second season, but you know, we carry on business as usual. I mean, that's how we run the business. And the three companies on scene, Loud Labs and RMG, I think we're the three main companies out there. There's other people out there that do it, and you know, they get hits, but it's. You know, we're still out there. Yeah. We're still doing it.
You know, we talked about you receiving death threats, talked about just the nature of the bustle and hustle, talked about family and how that plays into the roles that you do. What would you say is the hardest part about what you do, about your job?
The antisocialness of the hours. Being in a marriage and having a kid, you know, I'm tired. I mean, I usually get up about 11, 12, something like that. But I go to bed 5 a.m. and then my wife takes our kid to school 4 days a week, and just, I do miss the days of sitting in bed and watching TV with my wife, that kind of stuff, or just having an evening. I mean, I have that at weekends. I spend time with my family, but sometimes I question myself, like, would I enjoy a 9-to-5 job where I can actually come home and have dinner at a certain time and get up and take my kid to school and then go and have breakfast with my wife, that kind of stuff. So I do question myself, especially now. The priorities have changed with having a family, but the lack of sleep and making sure I'm safe out there now. But it's definitely difficult. I mean, I spend a lot of time with my kids and my wife when I can, and I definitely don't deprive them of having a family unit together. I mean, that's extremely important, and being the best dad I can. That's essentially what I do now.
And what scares you the most about your profession?
The danger. I mean, there's always been danger in it. It's just part of the job. But being out on the roads, the amount of things that we see and the situations that we ultimately not intentionally get into, like, I mean, we're pretty savvy. I mean, we know not to approach a scene of a shooting when there's no police there. Like, we're not stupid. I mean, we have an adrenaline side to us, but we're not stupid. But just being careful, being on the freeway. I would rather be filming a gang shootout than being stuck in a crash on the freeway and being in that situation. I've been on a lot of things. Recently, I've done CPR twice on people that have been ejected. One got ejected from a car, and another one was hit by a van. And just being in those situations, knowing that it could be gone in a second. I have a picture of my son on my visor of my car. So if I think I'm driving crazy, or if I'm going to something and I have to calm myself down, I flip my visor down, look at my kid, tone it down. I have to bring myself back down. But that's the main thing. But yeah, it's safety is number one now.
Yeah, no, that's great that you're able to do that. I just I think everybody that's a dad or a family man has their own way of, when they get that adrenaline pop, kind of slowing it down a little bit.
Yeah,
police officers do it all the time too.
I can't imagine how they do it. I say that to them all the time. I got major respect for them and how they go home after the stuff they see. It's like somehow I've had therapy about things I've seen, like people dying and being shot, and I mean, you wouldn't believe. Well, you probably would believe half the stuff we see working in news. We see it all the time. But not to the extent that the fire department and the police department and highway patrol deal with it every single day and go home and deal with it. I mean, it's astonishing what we see.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say that you, you see the misery of humanity up close and personal. Mm-hmm. But then there are those moments like what you were saying, that you gave CPR to somebody, saving their lives. How do those moments feel to you when they happen?
I mean, we get that question a lot, especially from people who have seen the show. Well, why would you just film there instead of doing something? And that's Shot in the Dark is a prime example of what we do. My brother, for example, with the crash, he put his camera down and he went to help. I mean, and that's what we do. I mean, we are often on scene of things very, very quickly. And I'm fully first aid trained. I've recertified in the last couple of months my CPR and my first aid. So if I see somebody bleeding out, I'm going to sort them out first. I've filmed crashes on freeways, and I have a dash cam that captures stuff. I had dash cam of me doing CPR on someone. Like, there's always ways to get that on tape but I'm going to help first. I mean, essentially is what I'm saying, is we could get so much hate from people, and I think everybody will do what they're going to do. I mean, the whole hero thing my brother did, he says I wouldn't do it. He said I would have done it. I don't know if I would have done it. I mean, that was pretty ballsy, running onto the freeway like that. But I don't know, it's an interesting career choice.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're in a tough spot because, yeah, your profession is to get the scene, but then as a human, you also want to help.
Right.
It's all these emotions that
Yeah.
and feelings that go on all at the same time.
Yeah.
How do you even deal with that?
I think it's just part of me. I think I've always wanted to help first. I think as a second career, I would have either been a firefighter in the CHP. I don't know how good I would have been, but I think, yeah, I mean, dealing with it, it's tough. It really is. It's tough.
Yeah.
Tough out there.
So now that you have the video of the scene and you call the station, say, hey, I'm going to send you something. I'm going to send you a video of this. You send it out. How does that relationship with the station work? Do they tell you right away, okay, yeah, we'll buy your video? Or how does that process work?
I wish they did. Make our lives a lot easier. Yeah, so it's, as you know, there's other companies out there, and it's a race to get the footage out. I mean, that's part of it, is to get the footage out quickly. And there's the other aspect, you have to shoot it well. Use a tripod, get interviews, you do a whole package. You're not just going to wander up with a cell phone on a gimbal thing and just shoot a bunch of stuff and hope for the best. I mean, we know what's going to sell, but we'll edit on our cars. We'll create the high resolution format, add our logo to it. We send it out. We have our own video server, so it's I think we have 10,000 clips on there now. I mean, it's a huge video server, and it automatically gets distributed to all the producers and the control rooms and the news desk emails, and then it populates a thumbnail that we choose, so it shows the stations. And then we have a download log via IP address, so we know who downloads it and where that comes from. So in the morning we print out our download log, and then we actually physically check each newscast and then timestamp it and take a screen grab of it and then invoice. And we still get rejections. Like, we still get, we didn't use this. It's like, okay, so now I'm going to go through my thousands of pictures and find that one image to... There's certain stations out there that kill us. Every single, we didn't use it. Yes, you did. We didn't use it. Haven't you learned by now? Every time we do this, we send you. Just pay us. But the bigger stations are usually fine with that. But occasionally we might get an email saying, "Hey, we used it." Rarely. I mean, that would be ideal. But
wow, do you have to deal with Claire here a lot?
I do, and Claire's a blessing. Yeah, we deal with Claire a lot, and it's been a pleasure working with Claire. I wish CBS bought more, but hey, we understand the business. But as far as assignment desks, we have good relationships with most of them. There's a couple of funny people out there. Obviously, I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple of people out there that kind of don't have time for stringers, which I kind of find a little. I don't understand it. Not my job to understand it. I just go with the flow. We'll get a snotty email here and there. I'm like, seriously? But but we have good relationships with most of the news desks.
That's good. Yeah, I've heard so many things about stringers, and there's always this. There seems to be a stigma associated with stringers just on what people say. A lot of people say that they're jerks, or they're but I think at the end of the day they're just people like us. They're like what they say about you. What I've heard, the one thing I've heard about you is you're the nicest stringer out there.
Oh, bearing in mind I did produce the show, so I might have swayed that a little.
But it's. I think everybody has a misconception of certain professions. And this is one of the reasons, too, why I wanted to do this podcast with you, because I like doing or talking to people that have funny jobs in a way, a funny profession, but at the same time they're helping people somehow.
Yeah, it's I remember a particular instance going on about helping people. I mean, obviously, most of the stuff we do is, we report news. It's not like a PSA or anything like that. But I do remember a time where I was filming a very delicate story in Marina del Rey. I used to live in the marina, and a 3-year-old fell out of a window for a 2-story thing, and the kid fell down, and they were treating this kid. And I show up, and I know it's going to be a delicate scene, so I'm filming from a distance, and the this guy comes up to me with a little kid in his arms. Nothing to do with the scene. It's like just someone walking past and said, "You're disgusting. How dare you film someone's misery like that?" And called me a bunch of names and walked off. Well, okay, all right, fair enough. So anyway, I continued doing my stuff. And then I went up to him afterwards and said, "Look, with all due respect, I'm doing my job, and you understand from my point of view, I am filming this incident not only to make money, but to put this on the news. The stations will now probably have childcare experts on the station saying how to safeguard your house from stopping this from happening to someone else." And I could see something switched on, and he actually apologized for the way he treated me, saying, "Okay, I really see your side. You're doing not a service, but you're actually making people aware of things that might happen, and they do happen like this." And he apologized. So there's a very fine line of what we do and how it's perceived.
Well, it's so interesting to me how some folks are just so narrow-minded. They only see one thing. They don't see the overall picture of what's happening and how one thing plays a part on a bigger thing. It's like everything in nature. I'm a big fan of these nature shows, like Planet Earth and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they show the most minuscule thing that you think has nothing to do with it, that it's just worthless. And it turns out they're probably the biggest, most important thing in that whole ecosystem.
Yep.
In making it work. So
yeah,
I'm glad that you experienced that switch in this person. I think we should all do something similar. Not just look and focus on something when there's something bigger to it.
Yeah.
Kind of understand it.
Yeah. I mean, just another instance recently, I was down in Venice filming that Orson Bean, the actor that was killed in the crash, the pedestrian crash a couple of weeks ago. And delicate situation again. Excuse me. There's a crowd of people. I'm staying back and trying to mind my own business, and I started to get harassed by somebody, and to the point where he threatened to, he was gonna punch me. Basically, he was in my face. So I said, "Okay, I'm leaving. That's fine. I appreciate it. I've lost a close friend too to a pedestrian crash. Tried to explain to him, I understand. I'm doing my job. Let me leave." And he followed me, and he was and so he followed me. So then I just told him, "Look, I am recording this. Please, I'm trying to walk away. Don't make this any worse. Okay? I understand. I'm leaving. So just stop following me." And he continued to follow me, and then someone else had to come and pull him away. But we deal with emotions and that kind of conflict. And then on the other scheme of things, there was someone else at this thing saying, "Please make sure we show us all clapping and how he is a highlight of our life." And it's like, so you get those two, the two emotions within seconds of each other. It's extremely crazy what we see.
Okay, do you have any questions?
So if anyone's listening to this podcast and they're curious about, they want to get in the stringer business, how, if they wanted to join you or do their own, how would they go about even starting?
I'm going to be brutally honest with this. We had this question a lot. We get emails still every day about the show and how they want to do it. And I will just say the same thing I say to them. It's not a career choice now. If you want to do it for a bit of extra pocket change. Choose a different career. It's a changing industry. 10 years ago, I would have said something different. But obviously, it has brought out a lot of people. Everybody thinks they can do it. And I heard one of the stations had somebody phone them after Nightcrawler came out and wanted $10,000 for a car fire or something along those lines. But it's definitely not a career choice. I would say it's, if you enjoy it and a passion and a hobby, go ahead, do it. Reach out to one of the main companies might be the best idea. Because starting your own company and doing it, you're always going to fight against that competition, and competition is brutal. I mean, the show highlighted that, how packaging is killing the industry, and we're all forced to package now. We didn't have to, and now stations are actually phoning us and saying, "Can I package this thing you shot in Riverside with the thing you shot in Sylmar?" I'm like, I don't want to set that precedent, so kind of no. But it's definitely becoming it's not a career choice anymore. I'd say if you want to do it, maybe try a job at a station, but being a stringer, hey, fine, do it at weekends. If you're in school, you need a bit of pocket money, hang out. We don't offer ride-alongs just because of a liability thing. I know some other companies do, but if you really want to do it and you're passionate about it, go ahead, do it. I wouldn't spend a huge amount of money on doing it. I mean, luckily cameras are cheaper now, and you can buy, even cell phone stuff nowadays sells. But hey, get a social media following, get your name out there, and you can do it. I wouldn't expect to earn a huge amount of money and a living wage from it at this point. I'm different because I take 100% of what I earn. Like if you work for one of these companies, they get a percentage. So it's different for me. I can actually make a living because of the 100% versus someone who works for another company and then ends up having to package everything else. It kind of just gets whittled down to like a $50 a night paycheck for some of these guys. It doesn't even cover gas. So it's definitely not a career choice. Do it as a hobby, passion, great. You can reach out to us on our website. I mean, rmgnews.com, and I've talked to a lot of people. I do speeches at colleges and telling people how to do it. I talk at news things and tell them the same thing. I mean, I'm brutally honest about it, but that's the industry.
Do you think you'll start doing more production projects and kind of moving away from the stringer?
That's a good question. I mean, right now, I'm still doing production. I mean, this whole RMG thing is kind of my side gig, and it's something I enjoy doing. So I'm constantly doing production. I mean, we're working on a scripted show at the moment with Anonymous Content, big production company. I'm always pitching ideas. We have a deal going on with a company in Australia right now. We work with Fremantle. We work with some huge production companies on projects, and we're always pitching different ideas and having meetings with people. So it's, there's always something going on. I'm always busy.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I'm also curious how you build relationships with law enforcement and firefighters out on scenes. What's your tactic on how to get them trusting and comfortable with you?
That's a good question. That's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, we've been around long enough that we know most of them. 15 years ago, it was different. For some reason, we have more difficulty with county sheriff than anybody. I don't know why. I've never understood it, but it's always seemed to be the sheriffs. Obviously, I have nothing against them. It must be their policy or something, but as soon as they realize we're there, we always get moved back. Hey, get back. And then there's other smaller agencies that say, hey, we're going to close the road in a few minutes. Just get your shot and get out. There's always the relationship. But it's, you start to figure out who the captains are, and who the sergeants are, and you build the relationship over time. Occasionally you will come across a rookie cop that doesn't really know the rules about 409.5. Basically, the code is that we can be where we have fully credentialed. We have credentials from the LAPD and Sheriff Department. So there's definitely some learning that needs to be done by some of the rookies out there. I'm going to call out Pasadena and Long Beach. They are monsters to work with from media. I don't know why. Do not know why. We've had some real issues. Pasadena and Long Beach, don't know why. They will literally make up an area and keep pushing us back for no reason. I don't get it. But I've been arrested.
Really?
Yep, I got arrested. Wow. And I was basically protesting the 409.5. And this was before I had a kid and before I had responsibility. And it was at a house fire. Funnily enough, it was during the day, and I just happened to be in the area. And it was a big, wide open road. And there's people standing on the sidewalk next to the house on fire. And I thought, okay, I'll go and join them and film a bit. And this officer comes up, you need to leave. I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, you need to get across the street. It's a crime scene. Okay, well, it's not. There's no crime tape. There's other people here. Well, he's the owner of the house. Okay, well, that person there with a grocery bag walking past, they don't live there. Why are you singling me out? You need to leave or I'm going to arrest you. Okay, well, I told him I want to speak to your watch commander. No. Hands behind your back. So, and then he arrested me. And he arrested me 2 charges. failing to obey a peace officer and interfering at a fire scene, and get taken downtown to the detention center. Yeah, I got fully arrested, booked, everything, and get my one phone call to my wife. I didn't.
What did she say?
Actually, it was I couldn't get hold of her because it was. Sorry, she'd been trying to get hold of me. Like, it happened at 3:00 in the afternoon. She'd been trying to get hold of me. My brother had been trying to get hold of me. So they knew something was going on. And then I actually, it might have been my brother I phoned first. I think I got that one phone call. I phoned him, and he gets this recording of this phone call is coming from an inmate at the detention center, blah, blah. So I said, can you please let my wife know what's going on? So she wasn't happy, but I ended up going to court. No charges were filed. However, it was 2 misdemeanor charges, and they went away. But then a month later, thinking all free and clear, I get a letter from the DA, who I thought only dealt with felony cases. Sends me this letter saying, well, we have enough evidence to prosecute you. I'm like, okay. And because you're a first-time offender, we're going to give you this chance to redeem yourself and do a course on how to deal with acting in public and watch a DVD and do community service. I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyway, I didn't want to have a record. I have an arrest record, but I don't have a criminal record. So I ended up doing 24 hours of community service, delivering Christmas trees at Pierce College. Wasn't too bad.
Not bad.
It was outside. It was nice. Got a workout. And I had to watch this DVD and show up and prove I'd done this. Watch this DVD on how to not be an asshole, I guess.
But maybe that's good, like an educational learning of the system, just to have an idea of how.
I mean, I shouldn't have put myself in that situation. I guess I could have backed down, but I'm a little fiery. I mean, it's shot in the dark, but yeah, it was. But these relationships with cops and firefighters, it's kind of weird that the relationship we have with firefighters is different than we have with cops. Firefighters really want to be on TV. You know what? So do police, but firefighters really want to see themselves. So we find giving ourselves the footage for court. I'm in court probably a couple of times every 6 months. I'm in court showing dash cam that I shot of a DUI driver, or so we give evidence a lot of times. I get woken up 7 o'clock on Sunday mornings by an officer with subpoenas, which makes my wife happy. So somewhere at CHP this time. It's like, shit. But a lot of times there's evidence, so we have these good relationships. The big fire in downtown, I don't know if you were in LA, the Da Vinci fire, the 1 million square foot apartment complex that burned down in downtown, right off of the 110.
Sounds familiar.
Under construction, huge fire. Well, that was right after I got arrested. So, and I just have my luck. If you watch the show, my luck is incredible. I just roll up on stuff all the time. So I roll up to this. I just happened to see this building under construction on fire. When I got there was only one room on fire. So it ended up being an arson fire, and I must have just missed the arsonist because I was so close. Well, I send my footage out everywhere. A couple of days later, I get a visit from the ATF at my house and LAPD major crimes to investigate the fire. Because I've been arrested at a fire scene, they thought I might have something to do with it.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess they had security footage of me at the fire just after it started and wanted to question me. But that was right after I got arrested. And then we now have a relationship with the ATF, and we have a relationship with the major crimes. And when I got arrested, they seized my camera for 6 months, which was ridiculous. But then our relationship with the major crimes, they helped me get my camera back, and now... there's definitely relationships with everybody from CHP to police, but the firefighters, we have great relationships. I have friends in the fire. My wife used to be a firefighter, so it's.
Yeah, well, I think it's like that pretty much everywhere. I mean, Santa Barbara, for example, where Clint and I worked for almost a decade there. Yeah, firefighters were always our friends. They always got us the information that we needed whenever we needed it. When I was a news photographer, the toughest things to deal with always seems to have been from the law enforcement. Like there was one fire once that I went to the scene of, and They had blocked the sheriff's deputies had blocked the part of the roadway, so you couldn't really access the scene. Except, like, the firefighters, they had no problem with the media accessing the scene. They just didn't want, looky-loos and all these other extra folks that were flooding the area to go in there, but the media was okay. So I saw the sheriff's deputy let another media outlet in there, and so I threw a hissy fit about it. And so much so that finally he ended up, after a few calls, he ended up letting me through. And then I get to the scene, I park, I get out of my car. All of a sudden, this was a captain, or it was a high-ranking law enforcement official from the sheriff's department, comes rolling up and sees me with the camera and everything. He says, "Hey, you, come over here. And then, and so I go up to his window, and he says, he brings up the sheriff's deputy I was dealing with earlier. He says, "You don't talk to my sheriff's deputy that way."
Yeah.
And so I explained to him. I basically just told him, "Yeah, well, if you have a problem with me, then pick it up with my boss. Here's his number. I got to go do my work now. Bye." And so I just walked away, and that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't get arrested.
It could be as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah. If I knew that I was in the right, then I would call them out.
Yeah, me too. And it does get frustrating sometimes when we know we're allowed to be there. And, I get it. Their job is definitely harder now. We have the show. Everybody thinks they can do it. They have people showing up with homemade Photoshop credentials and wow, okay. So I guess they have to deal with this a lot more.
Yeah.
But
well, and just to circle back to how weird these relationships are. About a month later, I was at a triple homicide, and that same sheriff's deputy that prevented me from accessing the scene the month before was there, and I could tell he had been there the entire day. I was there for hours and hours and hours, up to a point where I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna order some pizza, have it delivered here to the scene." And then in the distance, I see the sheriff's deputy, and he's looking like he wants a little bit of it. And I said, "You know what? Come over here, join us. Let's get some pizza." So he was like super nice after that.
Yeah.
Because we took care of him as well.
Yeah, so, exactly. There's definitely a saying I try and go by is like, give respect, get respect, and it works both ways. And I tell that to the officers.
Yeah.
On brush fires too, we have bottles of water we hand out. I mean, it's. We know they have a difficult job, and we have a difficult job, and we have to find that common ground to kind of make things happen. But I know the feeling, I'll get chewed out by one guy, and then I'll go the next day to something else, and it's nice as pie. But there's definitely some people being spoken to in the last couple of weeks, too, about stuff, like traffic cops that weren't allowing us to be where we were allowed to be. And I know they're getting a speaking to from the higher-ups, and now it's just, it's a crazy job.
And so I'm thinking, looking ahead to the future, where does being a stringer go from here? What's next in the business to change it, evolve it? What's technology's coming that could make it different?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously in the forefront of our minds. I mean, just seeing how the industry's changed over the last 10 years. I mean, the next 10 years are going to be completely different. I mean, cameras are getting smaller, and it's for us, we've always tried to find different revenue streams. We have so much content that we needed to monetize our archive. We had so much stuff just sitting there doing nothing. So probably 5 years ago, we actually did a deal with a large distribution company in Miami, and they produced 54 half-hour episodes. It was a clip show of just our content, back to back to back. Horrible production value, really cheaply done, but we actually made a fair bit of money doing it. So to monetize your archive is a good thing. Stock footage, we're always pitching stuff to documentary series, and we sell stuff to the BBC. So archive stuff outside of the breaking news is definitely becoming more of a revenue stream for us. The social media thing, I know Loud Labs does a lot of live streaming. He's got a lot of followers on that. I don't know how he monetizes that. I guess he does. We're lagging behind in that effect, but I think I don't know if there's a market for us doing live content. I know On Scene tried to do live stuff. and they said they had some stations interested. I never see any live stuff because who's live at 2:30 in the morning? It's like, it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, just different revenue streams from, you know, packaging your content for productions, and like as soon as I knew, I found out that Ron Howard was doing a production about the Paradise Fire, the campfire up in Northern California. I was on the phone to my agent saying, hey, contact them and tell them I got 45 minutes of unbelievable footage of Paradise, and within 2 days I'd done a deal for that. Like, I pre-sold it to them. So yeah, it's definitely going forward. It's changing industry.
It'll be so interesting to see where it is in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we wrap this up, I got one final question, and that is, even when you're off and with your family, do you always have a camera ready to go?
I have a spare camera in my wife's car. I've got a spare camera in my car. I have used my cell phone. I don't like using my cell phone to shoot stuff, but I have. I'm always, and if I'm at the park with my son, and I always get notifications of fires and whatever else, and I'm always alert to stuff going on. And it's weird because when I moved into the house where I live, like, my neighbors had no idea all the kind of stuff that went on near us, and like, you know, we really like knowing what's going on, but we really like you as a neighbor, but we don't want to know anymore. We liked our neighborhood as it was, like, even though it's been happening for a long time.
It must be a little hard to turn it off. We're
very
news geeks, so for us it's a little hard to turn that off when we're off.
And when we walked here, we saw your car, and we knew it was your car because it had
funny.
the lights, the antennas, and we're like, oh, Howard's here.
That's funny.
So, like, that must get some attention, too.
It does. The car, it does. It gets good attention and bad attention. Obviously, we drive safe cars, and I drive it because I want people to leave me alone. Like, if I'm driving into a bad area, I don't want to look like I'm lost. So I drive it because it looks like a police car. Obviously, I don't try and be a police officer because I have press plates that I don't, it definitely shows that I'm not trying to be a cop or anything else. And people ask me, hey, what do the PP plates stand for? I have amber lights in the back window. I actually took my car to the CHP station to have them check it out just to make sure everything was legal, which it was apart from my front tints, but oh well, not a major issue. But yeah, we put a lot of miles on those things, so we got to drive safe cars. I mean, it's a 2017 Charger. I didn't want to get one because Scott had one from Loud Rams. I definitely wasn't going to get a white one. But yeah, the cars are nice cars. I like them.
And then I do have another question. What is your message to the community that as they see stringers or see you out working, just in general, what's your message to them to help just get the word about your job out?
Just make it easier, I guess.
Yeah, just understand that we're just doing our job. We're not there to make things worse. A majority of us are respectful. We respect you. Please don't disrespect us or intentionally smack our cameras or stand in front. There's always one hero that's going to try it, and I always try and downplay it. But just let us do our job. We're not trying to make anybody look bad. People make bad choices, and we're there to tell a story. We don't cause those incidents to happen. Like, a DUI driver crashes. Okay, well, I didn't force that person to drink and drive. That's his responsibility, and that's what happened to him. So that's bad for him. And we're just, it might make people realize, we're putting this out there. Maybe all it takes is one person to say, you know what, that was a bad crash last night. I'm not going to drink and drive tonight. So just let us do our job, and give respect, get respect.
Nice, thank you.
Nothing else?
I have one question.
Okay.
If I may.
Sure.
And it's to Claire.
Oh, yeah.
From a stringer's point of view, what can we do to make our stuff sell over anybody else's?
I will try to think quickly, but I guess what we're always thinking about is, will there be a scene for a long time, and can we put a reporter on it? So if those kind of match up, then we of course didn't have the crew to go get our own video, then we'll probably buy it because we're putting a reporter on it, so the story will have longer legs. So if the scene will probably last for a long time, we can have the reporter live there. But yet if the video is compelling enough and the story is, then, and we still put a reporter on it, even though the scene's not active, then maybe we'll still buy it.
Okay. So using a tripod, you would recommend that? As far as I know some people don't, some people do, some people like not being on tripod. But
I think from my background, because being around Oscar so much, who was a news videographer, that I'm so familiar with the non-tripod versus tripod look. So then I look at it and say, oh, that's tripod. That looks more steady to me. So I think that's better for the viewers.
Right.
So,
yeah. And then interviews, like we try and get interviews, sound bites from...
Oh, yeah. The producers love having sound bites because then it's just something extra to toss to, of course. Yeah. But, yeah. And
I mean, we try and do our best, and we try to shoot on tripod and get interviews. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then sometimes use other stuff. So
yeah, and unfortunately, the packaging does help sometimes.
Yeah.
But choosing maybe one company over another, but
yeah. I mean, especially with your company, we tend to do that a bit more because you buy less than other companies. You pay more, but you buy less, so it kind of equals out in the end, I guess. So say you have a 4:00 news thing coming up. So obviously speed, like the first person, like if it's really close to your deadlines, obviously the first person will usually get the sale, I'm imagining.
Possibly, but I feel like if they're able to wait for other video to come in, or they don't know if they want to buy it yet, then that gives time for another email to come in.
Yeah.
Then they have time to decide.
So the producers actually watch both.
Yeah, they do. And I love the formatting of your emails. And
we get that comment.
How they come in. It's really easy to read everything. And there's this one guy that's trying to start, and his emails shut down my Outlook. Like they literally make it not respond. And and I've told him twice now, but he still does it. And it's so frustrating, but I just appreciate when the emails don't do that and they're easy to read.
Yeah, we try not to send out too much information. I mean, sometimes we're in a rush and there's spelling mistakes and grammar, and that's
same here.
Any other questions, Claire?
I think that's all.
Okay,
I covered everything I wanted to ask.
Well, I know. Before I said I had a last question, but this is actually my last question.
Oh no!
What do you think of the coffee?
You know what? I'm really happy. That coffee was good. That was really good. What was it called again? The
Spanish latte.
Spanish latte.
Yeah, it has condensed milk instead of creamer.
Yeah, that was really good. I don't know if we had something similar when I grew up in England. I don't know if it reminds me of that, but that was really good.
Yep.
Really good. I mean, I have an espresso machine at home, and that's good coffee, but this was really good.
It looked like, too.
Have you been to England?
No, but that's on my bucket list for sure. Yeah. I want to go out there, maybe get some gentleman ties and shoes and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I love their cologne.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, like I have bought cologne that has been exported, or I guess imported here to the U.S. From England, and that typically tends to be like the cologne that I love most.
That's funny
compared to everything else.
Yeah.
But just before we end this, Howard, is there anything else that you want to add that maybe we didn't address or we didn't talk about during this chat? Just kind of want to have you get the last word here.
I don't think so. I think you had some good coverage questions. I think I've done a lot of these things and done a lot of videos, but I think you covered everything. Yeah, very good. I appreciate you having me here.
My thanks again to Howard for coming on this podcast to tell his story. He has so many incredible stories. I only wish we had all the time in the world to hear them on here. We met at a coffee and pastry kosher restaurant called Rolladin for a delicious Spanish latte. And be sure to check out the documentary series Shot in the Dark. It's streaming now on Netflix, and follow RMG News on social media. Those links, of course, will be provided in the description to this episode. And don't forget to send your comments to hangrymexicanpodcast at gmail.com. I would love to feature some of your comments on a later episode. And please rate the Hangry Mexican Podcast on Apple Podcasts and all other major platforms we are streaming on. The more you rate, the more ears this podcast will reach. Thank you for listening, and until next time, good night and good luck.